Welcome back to another Enough Already podcast. My name is Fingers. I'm your buddy. My pal Tracy L. Connors is here. She's our pal. And knowing her, she has taken all of the Democratic National Convention so far. She hasn't missed a minute, not a second, I'm sure.
Watched it all twice.
You watched it twice?
Yeah, I didn't even watch it once.
Well, I had thought that, you see, I'm very confused. I thought for the past 2 months I was watching highlights of the Democratic National Convention from Portland. And come to find out that's not the convention there in Portland.
Did you work on that one all week?
Mm-hmm. Clearly, you could tell by the delivery.
Yes. Wow.
No, I don't know anyone other than political nerds who are watching this. I mean, why would you? Look, if you're going to vote for Biden, you're not voting for Biden, right? You're voting against Trump. So you don't need I need to watch Christy Todd Whitman give me a sales pitch on why I should vote for Biden. You're voting for Biden anyway, but you're not voting for Biden, you're voting against Trump.
Right. And I don't know who picked the speaker lineup, but Christy Todd Whitman. For the kids out there, Christy Todd Whitman, former governor of New Jersey, was she?
Yes.
Republican?
Yes.
Great.
No, that's the thing. They're trying to build a case that even Republicans they just can't take Donald Trump.
Well, it would have been better than that terrible musical act, which I think is the only clip that anybody's seen from the thing. The only viral clip. Singing, yes. What is it, the Buffalo Springfield song?
Yeah. And
dressing like Prince's brother that may or may not have had a little bit of an addiction problem. I mean, it almost looked like a Chappelle Show skit.
Yeah, it looked like, do you remember?
Do you need me to look something up for you, Grandpa?
Yeah, I had to look it up because I couldn't remember the guy's name. You remember the viral video? I think it was Jimmy Kimmel who made this go viral. There was a singer-songwriter out of Tampa, and they had like a little music video show, and his name was Mark Gwormley.
No.
The video reminded me of that. It looked like something straight out of our good friend Sarah Smith said it was like something you would film in one of those amusement park booths. the quality.
Yeah.
And what was with the flag? The American flag had blue stripes instead of white. Do you know what that symbolized?
No, I mean, I think they were trying to put some kind of a color effect on it to obscure the shit quality of the whole thing. I mean, this is the Hollywood hardcore, right? All the best artists are supposed to be on that side of the field. And yet that, like, my dear friend who used to have a wonderful podcast, and I don't know why he doesn't anymore. He goes by Small G Gay on Twitter. He tweeted that out to me and a couple other people that used to follow his show. And I said, I feel bad making fun of the Make-A-Wish kid. Because honestly, like, that was the quality. I think a Make-A-Wish kid would probably get a better video made for him. There's no way to describe it to anybody that hasn't seen it and fully capture just how pathetic it is.
It looked like something out of a high school video production class in the 90s.
My high school video production, which I did in the 90s, was capable of better than that.
Yeah. I don't know what to say. And like you said,
kids that are under 10 that can do better than that.
Well, it's like you said. I mean, this is something that I would expect from the right.
Yes.
And then on top of it, okay, I listen, I freely admit that I do not have my finger on the pulse of pop culture. I didn't know who was singing. But
I didn't know who was singing either.
And the guy playing the guitar was Stills. It's like they would make so much fun of the right if they picked out, hey, let's get someone from the 60s to play guitar. And I understand it's their song and all, but still.
It's right, but it's like Ted Nugent, I feel like, has sold out more recently than whatever iteration we are with the Crosby, Stills group.
Yeah, and I don't know anything about Buffalo Springfield. I didn't know if Stills was part of that until you just said something.
I mean, as far as I know, that's who originally sang that song.
I'm old, but I'm not that old. But I will say this. Well, let's go back to the Christy Todd Whitman thing, and apparently this theme that they were trying to build, which was even Republicans. They had John Kasich up there. I don't know if you know this or not. His dad was a mailman.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually Mr. Zip.
I don't know what that means.
Oh, Mr. Zip was the cartoon mascot of the post office in the 60s. Okay. Again, my finger right on the pulse of pop culture. Right. But listen, I understand what they were trying to do there.
Do you?
Oh, I believe it was, listen, we're bringing a bunch of Republicans in to try to get independents and Republicans who are on the fence saying, look at all these, even these Republicans can't stand the man. Why should you vote for him? But if you are someone who has been fighting for your cause on the left for a long time, and you're seeing primetime speaker time going to squishy Republicans, doesn't that piss you off?
I think anybody that's been a hardcore activist for a long time is already pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they're watching, to your point. If you look every night, they're live streaming it in several places. So if you log on to Twitter, it's force fed to you if you try to go into the trending topics. So last night, so we're recording this on Wednesday, so we're halfway through. So Tuesday night, the big speaker Tuesday night was, I guess, Bernie Sanders. And when I logged in there, I don't know, 8 o'clock-ish, there were 5,000 people on the HuffPo feed.
Wow.
And then scrolling through the rest of it, it was ABC, NBC, CBS, C-SPAN. Those combine for maybe an additional 1,000. She's like, holy crap. Holy shit, this is bad. This is really bad. Nobody cares.
Why would they? I will say, I'll say something positive about their convention. Every convention should be like this. Everyone from now on. Just do a virtual convention. You can do your little commercials with no crowd because nobody's going to be watching anyway. So why not just go ahead and do that? And I've heard people say, well, it's just not the same. You got to have all the lunatics in the crowd with their buttons and their funny hats and all that stuff. Maybe it's just me. I think the last convention I really watched from beginning to end and was interested in was 2000.
Okay.
I mean, it's the same speech. I mean, we make fun of it all the time. The Republicans will get up and they'll have a prime time, and you can fill out your tax return on a postcard if you just vote Republican, and then nothing ever happens. It's the same speech every 4 years. It's like, okay. It's like the State of the Union when you hear every year the president say, we need to invest in our crumbling roads and bridges. Just rewind. Previous year, half the script is right there. They just cut and paste for the next year. At this point, you know, and a lot of it too, you think maybe part of the problem for as far as viewership goes is why would you tune in live? You can watch it anytime you want.
Right, but you don't want to watch it anyway.
That's true.
You know, it's almost like what Saturday Night Live has become now, where there are very few people that actually tune in live and watch the whole thing beginning to end. It's okay. There's probably going to be one or two good sketches. They'll be all over social media tomorrow or Monday. I'll get to it then. So the highlights will already be done for you. You get the Cliff's Notes version.
Yeah.
And at this point, you don't even want those.
Well, they had surprise speak. I guess Colin Powell was on.
Oh, surprise.
Yeah, it's a bunch of people. I got to tell you, you know.
Is anybody that surprising?
Well, being around a lot of factory folk, the blue collar guy, you know, on the shop floor who, you know, he a strong Second Amendment guy. who really cares whether someone's going to try to come and take their guns, and and they feel like they've been left behind by the Democratic Party. I can't tell you how many of them said to me in the last day or so, man, I got to tell you, I was going to vote for Trump until I heard Todd Whitman was against him. And now I'm completely flipping sides.
Have you heard more Todd Whitman or Cindy McCain's?
I honestly heard about Cindy McCain, and of course, unfortunately, John McCain's name brings a lot of ugliness to social media. At this point, I don't see any need to go over the top and criticize them. Look, as far as I'm concerned, I admire what he did in the military for our country. He sacrificed a lot. We can just leave it at
that if you want to. I think you've already said too much.
Yeah, he was a garbage senator.
Yeah, he was a pretty garbage human being, if we're being honest.
You just told me not to say anything further, and then you went further.
No, because you were trying to sugarcoat him and be like, well, he was a hero and all these wonderful things. Yeah, he was kind of a piece of shit. I remember you and I went down that rabbit hole the one weekend, reading all into that one committee that he chaired up. It was a whole bunch of people that had relatives that were left behind in Vietnam that just disappeared. And there comes McCain to tell them all to shut up and you're crazy and go away.
Yeah. There's one committee hearing where he just kind of swoops in and yells
at this poor woman whose brother had gone missing. And one of the details that was involved in this, because I can't even remember where the heck we found, somebody had written up this really long kind of white paper capturing this whole scandal that McCain was involved in. And they had left behind, radio signaling devices in different checkpoints throughout the country. And everybody that was deployed was given a special code number that if they could get to one of these communication devices, that they then just tap out via Morse code or whatever, say it's their social security number just to make it easy. And then it would be picked up and we would know, oh, hey, Fingers, who's been missing for a long time. He just checked in at that one little place over there deep in the jungle. We should go get him. So this woman's saying, hey, these devices have been blown up and people are checking in and we're not doing anything to go get them. Can you explain that? And he just berates her in front of everybody and calls her a liar. And it's just hideous. It's like there's no compassion coming from a man that spent, 5 or 6 years in a POW camp there getting tortured?
Yeah. Listen, let me tell you something, lady.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're talking about, friends.
You're nuts.
Yeah, you're nuts. You're a wacko bird.
Yeah, pretty much. It was really disgusting. And that was the point when I saw that. I'm like, I'm done trying to defend that guy's legacy. I'm sorry that he was kidnapped and tortured. That sucks. It's awful. But I don't know. I prefer my heroes when they don't get captured.
Oh, stop. Oh, there you go. There you go. But Cindy McCain, is it any surprise?
No, but they're trying to build it as the unlikely friendship between John McCain and Joe Biden. And who's that unlikely to?
Right.
It seems pretty likely to me. They're both kind of authoritarian blowhards that think they're the smartest guy in any room.
And let's face it, if he had an opportunity if he were still alive, if he were going to have dinner with someone, would he have dinner with Joe Biden or Mike Lee? I mean, we all know the answer. Look, anytime he could stick a knife in the back of conservatives, he would do it.
Yeah. He's the reason that Obamacare wasn't repealed, if you'll all remember.
The big big thumbs down. Yeah.
Wouldn't give up his Senate seat even when he was dying. And there was no chance he was coming back.
No, if that's really one of the reasons why I don't call myself a Republican anymore, is if that is what our betters in the blue checkmark smart set want the Republican Party to be the John McCain, Mitt Romneys of the world, then pass. Don't want to have any part of it anymore. The biggest regret I have as a voting adult was my vote that I cast for Mitt Romney in 2012.
Fair enough.
So that's what we're seeing here. At least they were trying to paint a picture, I believe, of all these disgruntled, reasonable Republicans.
Right, but who does that appeal to exactly?
I think they're trying to appeal to the independent. No, they're not going to appeal to the.
But at what age group is what I'm saying? I mean, is it we're going after seniors here? Because who else can put together? Do you think anybody under the age of, say, 30 that isn't a junkie knows who John McCain even was and would recognize his wife and would understand any kind of significance that was supposed to be tied together by her being there?
No, but they're counting on that.
Are they though? I can't figure out their strategy at all.
I think they're counting on the ignorance of some of the American voter, where they can create a narrative like, oh well, geez, look, isn't it shocking that Cindy McCain would come out here and endorse Joe Biden? Isn't it shocking that John Kasich, he ran for president 4 years ago as a Republican? How shocking. Well, if you follow John Kasich at all, you realize he's a dirtbag weasel, and it doesn't surprise me at all. And if anything, I think that if you're trying to win Ohio, John Kasich's endorsement just probably cost you about 50,000 votes. So
yeah, potentially.
I mean, if that is what our betters in the right wing elite want the Republican Party to be, John Kasich, pass. No thanks.
But that is what they want it to be.
Yeah, he's another ass-face weasel that is just mean. What was it? He was at a town hall and someone asked about Medicare for all, was it? Or was it an expansion of Medicaid? I can't remember. It was something to do with healthcare. And he was all for it. And he said, when I meet my maker,
oh yeah,
St. Peter at the pearly gates, gave some shit-tastic answer that made me think to myself, oh, for Christ's sake, you're just a sellout squish.
Yes. 100%. They're all phonies. But that's a loaded sexist term, I'm told.
It is.
It's just unbelievable. When you hear that word, what's the first thing that you think of? Honestly.
Well, unfortunately, it's going to be an obscure Seinfeld reference.
That's okay.
But it was an episode of Seinfeld where Kramer's friend called Jerry a phony. And Jerry called him out on it, and it's a hilarious 30 seconds of television where the guy goes, "Oh no! You know how when someone says someone is bad, that actually means he's good? That's what I meant." And Jerry said, "Use it in a sentence." He said, "Oh man, that Michael Jordan is so phony." And then he turns around and starts yelling at Kramer, "Why'd you tell him I called him a phony?" So, unfortunately. That's what I think of when I think of a fight. What do you think of when you?
I think of Catcher in the Rye. Honestly, I'm serious. That's the first thing that comes into my head. I remember not liking that book when I was forced to read it in junior high school or whatever it was. And that was just the phrase that kept sticking out to me, is that Holden Caulfield was always going on about everybody's such a phony. And maybe if I read it now as an adult, I might be able to pick up on some of the subtler themes. But I'm like, oh my God, I get it, dude. Everybody's fake plastic phonies. But I mean, there's kind of like, not to put you down because I love low culture, but that's like the low culture side of the aisle.
That's why I started laughing.
That Seinfeld episode. And I'm like, yeah, the book that we're all forced to read.
I was never forced to read that book, but
really,
I went to.
I can't recommend it enough.
I went to a mediocre public school. So
well,
there you go.
Aren't they all?
Oh, but I really believe that this is the way to go for conventions. I mean, because for so long they have made this into a pre-packaged media event where the messaging is so controlled. Well, now they've taken that 4 steps further with this one. I mean, they're a lot pre-recorded speeches.
Well, my question is, do you think that they'll pull out Queen Latifah on stage to sing Unity? I mean, honestly, like that's closer in a timeline of the world. That's happened more recently than Buffalo Springfield, which I looked up. It was Stephen Stills and Neil Young and another guy named Richie Furay.
Yeah, so. I know anybody over the age of 40 watching this right now is probably,
everybody's heard that song for what it's worth.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah. But Buffalo Springfield, I mean, that's talk about.
They were in a bunch of different bands together.
Yeah, Summer of Love, Tracy.
They were 66 to 68.
Yeah.
But I don't know who the hell this Billy Porter is that sang the song.
No, I didn't. I no. Well, I'm sure you're supposed to. Don't call him a phony.
Well, he's not a phony. He's just like some cheap dime store vampire outfit thing going on.
Yeah, I didn't understand that at all. I didn't understand the flag in the background. I didn't understand. I mean, I understood what they were trying to go for, but it was just the production value was so bad, and I don't know. I guess I expect more from them. Like
absolutely,
you've got all of Hollywood
for the most part. Yeah,
pretty much all the music industry, and that's what you come up with.
That was just the first night. It's a throwaway.
Yeah. It sure was a throwaway.
Yeah. God, it's bad.
I mean, and that's the thing too. It's like when you do something that horrible, and that's the lasting image so far of the convention. Other than that, and like you said, we are recording right now, Wednesday afternoon, so there's still a lot more to come.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately. But the other thing that just made me sprain my eyes was the orgasmic reaction on Twitter from our betters in the media to Michelle Obama's speech. Oh my goodness, this was one of the greatest political speeches I've ever seen in my life. Oh my gosh, one of my media friends just texted me and said, "This may have won the election for Joe Biden." Oh, it was so she could have farted in the microphone for 10 minutes.
Isn't that what she did?
Got the same reaction for some of these people.
I mean, my eye roll for that whole thing, which I didn't watch because I don't care to hear what she has to say, or somebody wrote for her and she'll say, was that she apparently recorded that before the Kamala Harris VP announcement.
Oh, did she?
Yes, which I found out on Twitter because apparently people were asking why she didn't mention. How are we supposed to pronounce her name now? Kamala?
I keep going with Kamala because I was told it was like Pamela, except with the K.
Yeah, that's what we thought forever ago, but I think that's wrong now.
Oh, it's wrong now?
I don't know. Let's call her the top cop. So she was not mentioned in Michelle's speech, which leads people to wonder why no mention is there. Then we can go into the speculation garbage. Oh, did she really want that? Do they not like each other? What's going on? But in reality, thanks Jake Tapper for telling me, he tweeted out, well, the reason that she's not mentioned is because that was filmed, Michelle's speech, prior to that announcement. So a whole week plus in advance.
Sure.
Because, in these busy times of not being able to go anywhere or do anything, she couldn't be bothered.
Listen, she's out there with her husband, and I imagine right on the ocean there, measuring the sea levels to make sure they're monitoring things, to make sure that things aren't getting out of control. She's a busy woman.
Well, it occurs to me now there might be a rationale that explains both her doing that and the bad green screen, which is that filming, for the most part, big productions have been completely shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's difficult to get people that actually know what they're doing to show up and film stuff. They don't want to run the risk.
For the cause, I mean, come on.
But think about who is the most paranoid of getting sick. It's the same people that you need to make your film production run.
Yeah.
So maybe they're saying, hey, look, nope. And I don't know what the stances are of the various unions that are involved in the filmmaking process on whether or not they're pushing really hard for their members to go back to work. Like, I don't, and I didn't watch all of it, but I guess when Rob Lowe was on with Rogan, he was talking about the new protocols that they're under, where they're basically living in lockdown, kind of like the NHL and the NBA are, and these, in order to get movies made, everybody's got to live in a bubble.
Well, the other thing I saw when it came to the reaction to her speech was, oh, it's such a challenging setting and environment, what they're doing, to be able to come across as authentic and have this, one of the best political speeches we've seen in years, without an audience. And I'm looking at this going, what a bunch of bullshit this is. That's the easiest setting to give a political speech. You aren't in front of a huge audience. You're not live. I mean, you go back to Sarah Palin's speech in 2008 at the convention when the teleprompter completely crapped out on her and she had to improvise for like a minute or two until everything got caught back up. It's the idea that, sitting in a comfortable chair in
pre-recorded while tens of people watching it when it gets pumped out. She's probably wearing slippers and something that wouldn't be up to the student dress code standard from here on down.
Right. Listen, and Biden's speech is going to be the same. It's what a great environment for someone who has been in the basement for weeks, and if he is interviewed live on a network, has one or two, oh shit, that would have buried anyone else moments in an interview, and it's just on a regular basis. They probably recorded his speech weeks ago. And
they're going to play a clip from 2015 or something where he's coherent and looks to be in good health.
And they'll probably, if they're smart, they would have done that and then had a microphone like I have in front of my face. And for those who are watching on YouTube and BitChute, because we do a video version of this podcast. And then when he mentions his running mate, he could move to the side where the mic completely blocks his face and they would just insert name here.
But he could just sit. But to your point, it would be better if he just had a mic in front of his face the whole time and never opened his mouth.
Yeah, right.
But my other question was, he's a famous plagiarist, which hasn't come up since earlier on in this whole deal. So whose speech is he going to give on Thursday night?
Boy, that's a good question.
If they want a super troll, remember at the 2016 Republican convention, they had Melania give part of Michelle Obama's speech from way back in the day, which I believe was set up to piss everybody off and draw attention to her. Mm-hmm. But that's just me sometimes believing that their troll game is at the ultimate level. So it would be hilarious to me if Joe Biden gave part of Melania's speech that was actually originally Michelle's speech. But you need a seriously high-placed mole in his organization to get that through.
Well, speaking of master trolls, the Republicans will do their version next week. And as we know, there are few trolls that are better than the president of the United States at trolling. So my question is, if you were going to have some dream speakers for the Republican National Convention, anyone pop into your head? That would be, talk about tweaking. That's a tweak. That's a tweak. That's a tweak. Go on.
Well, I think I am waiting, and it's in the ether that there's going to be a big pardon coming. So I think you bring out the pardon brigade with the big reveal being Assange at the end. We've got Snowden in the mix. Maybe they have like a video link to, well, it's all going to be video. Putin wishing his, like, here's Kim Jong-un saying hi from North Korea, like pulling the plug on his nukes, whatever it is. I mean, just let's really do this thing. But Roger Stone can come out the first night. And I feel like you can't have Kanye, I guess, because he's, for all intents and purposes, running for office.
Right.
So he can't be a speaker, but maybe you bring out old Kimmy Cakes, as Perez Hilton like to call her, and you have her with Alice Walker, and then they can talk about, okay, Kamala Harris would have left this woman in prison for the rest of her life. So we can play this game of differentiating it, because I keep hearing this argument, and I get it, that the right is always the law and order guy. So how can they really go against the crooked cop Kamala? And my response to that is she was going after people for petty bullshit and also keeping people that were innocent locked up in jail. So to me, there's a huge difference.
That's a piece of power. Yeah,
it is. And Trump is famous for pardoning all these people, including Susan B. Anthony.
Which apparently the B for leftists now, the B stands for bad.
Yeah.
And Susan B. Anthony.
Yeah.
New York Times.
Bitch, I think, is what it actually stands for.
Oh, yeah.
But you know how I feel about the 19th Amendment. So I was very tempted to tweet out, it's been 100 years. Can we just cut the crap? It's been a good run, ladies. Let's give it up. And then Susan B. Anthony is proof that voter fraud is real. She got arrested for illegally voting. Mm-hmm. So imagine that. I don't know. I mean, I think if they really want to troll, Trump comes out on a mountain of mailboxes, which is my new favorite thing. And I would love to start the rumor, and I'm trying to do it, that there are Russians embedded inside of the U.S. Postal Service, and that there's other gangs of roving Russians that are stealing mailboxes. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, these people tried to convince us that the Russians were trying to penetrate state voting systems electronically and tamper with votes. What do you think is easier to do, fingers? Hack into voting machines or just go with a wrench and just walk away with the whole mailbox?
Yeah. Did you see
or you just drop one of those, mostly peaceful Molotov cocktails into one of those boxes and you done.
Did you see the Babylon Bee piece that Trump was driving around with a baseball bat, knocking down personal mailboxes to tamper with the election?
It's just unbelievable. Trump is rounding up all the mailboxes, guys.
It's amazing. It's just amazing to watch the media coverage. I mean, in Florida, Laura Loomer won her primary. She's running for Congress.
It's so amazing. We're becoming more and more the WWE every day.
Yeah, and I saw 3 headlines from different pieces, and each one said far right. Laura Loomer. And it's like, when do you ever see that on the far left candidate?
Well, you see it in the right-wing media.
Yeah, but this is supposed to be mainstream media. CBS News.
No such thing. No.
You never see, far left candidate.
Well, I mean, if we're being honest, she is pretty far right.
Sure.
I don't think, in her case, I mean, they can't go alt-right, I suppose. I don't know why. I guess they've given up on that one. But it just cracks me up to imagine what it would be like if she was in Congress. Oh, and by the way, she got more votes in her primary than Cenk Uygur got in his. Isn't that great?
That's funny.
Right. No, God love her. I would love to see her on the floor. I feel like she's going to get in a fist fight with Ilhan Omar during the first State of the Union that they both attend. They'll all pull the shtick where they wear the white again, and Laura will either go like all black, or maybe she'll do some Lady Gaga type shit where she comes in like all meat dress or something. I mean, this is a woman that's done some crazy stunts. She has no fear whatsoever.
Who's that recording artist that went all Trump, and she was wearing Trump dresses to like the Grammys? And
I want to say her name is Joy Vila.
Yeah, maybe she'll raid Joy Vila's wardrobe and show up in a Trump dress, but it's not going to happen. From what I understand, that district is so heavily tilted towards Democrats that she's not
here's the
win.
thing. If they don't get this nonsense vote by mail garbage, which I can't imagine that Ron DeSantis is going to allow that. So it'll just be regular in-person voting or absentee. So think about who's going to turn out. Like, as you said, there's no enthusiasm whatsoever on the left.
Yeah.
Plus, you've got the threat of the virus. So who's willing to risk their lives, or who believes that they would be risking their life, I guess? And is it worth risking your life to go vote for Slow Joe and Crooked Cop?
Right. No, it's the whole vote by mail thing is such a nonsense issue because it takes all of a minute and a half to get online and request an absentee ballot. Yes. The idea that it's, oh gosh, it's so it's so difficult. How do you expect people to? You mean go online? The same people that are running in the streets and protesting, they have time to do that. None of them apparently have smartphones and internet capability to go on. I think it's vote.org and be able to request an absentee ballot. It takes. I did it for my dad, and he was sitting next to me. I didn't do anything illegal, and it took me a minute and a half to request his absentee ballot.
An undue burden. It's almost like a poll tax.
Such a nonsense issue.
Yeah, but they love this. They've been stoking this whole thing of the Republicans are coming to disenfranchise you. That's what voter ID is about. No. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, I get the argument that she's in a heavy D district, but you have no idea who's relocated there during this whole time period.
Well, and the other thing that I've seen, the speculation is, I don't know if you saw earlier this week, there was a new CNN poll and Biden was only up 4. He was up 14 and now he's only up 4. And this was a CNN poll. And one of the things that was buried in the analysis of the poll was Trump is performing much better with people of color. No. And the nomination of Kamala Harris is going to hurt Biden with some black voters. So if he overperforms with the African-American vote, and you have people in that community who say to themselves, I can't vote for Trump, but you know what, I'm staying home. Yeah. I can't vote for Biden and Kamala Harris. Then that may lead to a Trump victory in November. I don't know. The last week and a half, I've really, look, things can change. Don't ever underestimate the power of the Republican Party to shit the bed. But I think if Trump stays on message and it's a law and order campaign, I think that you're going to see some movement with white suburban females. They said, oh, he's lost that vote, and it's like, well, geez, I've talked to plenty of women who I'm not going to say that they weren't going to vote for Trump in 2020, but the amount of concern over what's going on in cities across this country. I'm in Indianapolis here, and to see what happened in downtown Indianapolis, there was a well-known beauty shop that is right on the Circle in downtown Indianapolis. And there's a beautiful, it's called Monument Circle. And this shop isn't reopening. And they said one of the reasons why is because our customers they don't feel safe coming downtown anymore. And that is really one of the things to take away from what happened with the riots is you've got plenty of boarded up buildings still. Many businesses have not come back. We talked about that last week in Manhattan, where there are big names.
Oh, yeah.
Victoria's Secret, Subway,
the Gap.
The Gap. And you're seeing in other cities, too, where it's just not worth it. I know when I first moved to Indianapolis in 2000, it was a real treat to go downtown. It was beautiful.
Sure.
To walk the streets. Not too long ago, you had a woman murdered on the canals, a beautiful walking area in the canal. She got into an argument with someone over Black Lives Matter, and she was shot dead over it. The burned out buildings. There's no sense of security downtown. There's not the police presence there used to be. And I think that's playing out in major cities around the country. And I think that that's going to alarm a lot of people. That does alarm a lot of people. And I think that if Trump stays on message and makes this a campaign about law and order, I think he wins.
Yeah, it's a tough needle to thread, I think, because of the crooked cop Kamala thing. It's how do you pigeonhole that idea of law and order versus Trump's idea of law and order?
Well, I think what you do is you try to sell people on the fact that all we've heard about is systemic racism in law enforcement and the criminal justice system. She is the poster child of the systemic problems in the criminal justice system in California. You don't want a person like that who would lock people up for marijuana use and then giggle about her own marijuana use.
Right. And I did go back and look at that. And it was that she had said she was doing that stuff in law school, that she was smoking weed in law school. And she was in law school in the late 80s. And the soundtrack to her weed smoking took place 4 or 5 years after she graduated from law school.
Well, I would think that I would have empathy for people who were using it if I had used it at one point.
You would think.
But apparently not.
Right. No, I mean, it's destroying her. She's a cold-hearted woman. I don't think she has empathy at all. And I've seen some disturbing clips. Like Jimmy Dore went live that night as soon as the announcement came out, and he had a video, part of his podcast they take clips out of. So it was a very long kind of live stream, and maybe they pulled 20 minutes out of it. And within the first 48 hours, it had over 200,000 views on it. And the title was Kamala's a Cop. And they just went into this history, and they had all these crazy videos of her, at probably the rubber chicken dinner events in front of big donors, just touting her, how she sent out a letter on the official letterhead of the DA's office of San Francisco, informing all the parents that if their kids weren't showing up to school, that she was going to throw them in jail. And she was so amazing. Proud of this and like laughing about it with her terrible laugh that you've.
Oh. And she always like tilts to the left while she's bouncing.
Back into the left, eh?
Right?
Yes.
Look, this is one of the few times where I really feel bad for the political left, because I'm seeing with them exactly what I went through when I was a Republican. And as I get older, the libertarian streak, it comes out more and more, even though a libertarian will tell me I'm not a libertarian. But just leave me alone. Can we just scrap everything? Get rid of the Department of Education, Department of Commerce, just go right down the list. Out. But for years, I drank the Kool-Aid. I would listen to the speeches. I would listen to these politicians we're really going to have tax reform. We're gonna have a flat tax or a fair tax, or we're gonna be able to privatize Social Security. It's gonna happen. These people are committed. No, the only thing they're committed to is political power. I don't give two shits about you. The only thing they care about is being able to stay where they are as long as they can to build personal wealth, and that's what it's all about. So, I mean, for the last. This is in 2016, they screwed Bernie over. And now at least it was palatable to some, because it's like, okay, we got a woman at the top of the ticket. We can make history, and the glass ceiling, blah, 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 blah. Okay, whatever. Now this time around, they put the screws to Bernie in Iowa. And now they did everything they could to give the left another shit sandwich candidate. And this time it was a guy that really none of them were asking for, but they created an environment where they sold enough people and believing like, well, it's his turn.
Well, he's the only one that can beat Trump.
Yeah. Haven't we heard that before on the right? Oh, you know what? It's Bob Dole's turn. Oh, you know what? It's John McCain's turn. Well, it's Mitt Romney's turn. Yeah. Okay. Turn to lose.
Yeah. But they didn't have anybody who can make a move like Trump did. Or he's like, yeah, I don't believe in this turn shit.
Yeah.
You guys are all a bunch of liars and thieves.
Yeah. And actually mean it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Bernie Sanders should have burned everything down in 2016. Yep. And instead, he played ball. And in his defense, maybe he thought he would end up dead. Clinton Foundation van shows up when you least suspect it, and next thing you know, you're worm food. Maybe that's what he was thinking. I don't know. I'm joking, people, kind of. But I don't understand. We mentioned it several times. You talk about phony. You spot a phony revolutionary from a mile away when you're sitting there giving a speech, and you just let two people take the microphone from you. Like Bernie, that happened to him in what was it, Seattle? Yeah. Where those two women just got up and took the mic from him. And he's like, oh, let them talk. It's okay. Let them talk.
This is a people's movement. See?
Yeah.
Let the people talk.
Okay.
No, he's full of shit. Everybody that's listened to us knows how much we think he's full of shit and what the real grift is. And there's AOC right behind him to take his spot when he eventually retires.
Yeah, everybody says she's dumb. She's smart. I don't care. Okay, listen.
Maybe savvy would be a better way.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I'll buy that. But now she's in a perfect position. She's in a district that she's never going to lose. The DNC, mainstream Democrats, the Democratic machine, they can throw money behind a big name primary challenger, but people will spot that from a mile away, and she'll just continue to win. And she could be in there for 20, 30 years, still be a young woman, and be worth $100 million.
Oh, easily. And speaking of, did you see this news that Cuomo has a book coming out? You didn't see this? Oh, fingers. This delights me so. Because I see this headline. His book is coming out in October. And here's how the New York Post headlines it. Governor Cuomo looks to cash in with book on pandemic.
How I Killed Grandma and How You Can Kill Your Grandma Too. Is that the name of the book?
Yeah. But remember, I mean, he's being lauded for this. So this is wonderful. These are the people that bitch about Trump's shooting off a tweet. How does he have time to do that when the whole world is burning down around him? Chaos. Here's this piece of shit.
He wrote a whole book, which of course.
Well, or at least he sat down with a ghostwriter.
Yeah, he didn't write it, but still.
It's going to come out on October 13th. He's gotten a book written during the pandemic, and we are now 5 years out almost from Obama leaving office. Where's his book? We still don't know about that, but I love this.
It's his Chinese Democracy. That's Barack Obama's book. And that's a Guns N' Roses reference that people probably won't understand. That's okay.
So this is how they describe this. Who wrote this? Because they're making me laugh. Leah Ushtawa. I can't pronounce your last name, Leah. Sorry. I'm not going to try. Governor Andrew Cuomo has a new book coming out, and it's all about himself. The three-term Democrats' latest tome, American Crisis, promises to give readers a behind-the-scenes look into Cuomo's handling of the coronavirus outbreak, even as the pandemic rages on. Oh my God.
What chutzpah. It's amazing. Talk about privilege. Democrat privilege is some of the best privilege you can have.
It's amazing. Here's how his publishing house, which is Crown Publisher, this is what was in their press release. American Crisis is a remarkable portrait of leadership during a crisis. And a gritty story of gut-wrenching choices that point the way to a safer future for all of us. So in this future, Fingers, We're condemning old people to death traps while we have prisoners taking hand sanitizer out of Purell bottles and putting it in bottles labeled made in New York. This is the leadership that we can expect in the future. Prison labor and old people death camps.
From America's governor.
Unbelievable. And he found the time. I mean,
and the media laps it up. It's can't wait for this book to come out.
He's
right?
wonderful.
Is that their October surprise?
Yes.
Can you imagine if you had a loved one who I try to stay consistent on this because, there's so much blame being thrown at Trump for the COVID-19 response. And listen, the federal government is what it is. And they did some things right. They did a lot of things wrong, and it would have happened under anyone's watch. And I've said on several occasions, I go back to that infectious disease expert who was on Rogan's podcast, and I can't remember the gentleman's name. He said, trying to stop this is like trying to stop the wind.
Yeah.
People are going to die. So I try to stay consistent where it's like, well, Jesus, people were going to die and it's awful. But the way he handled this crisis, ordering people to go back into assisted living homes who tested positive, just the number of people who died because of that decision that unnecessarily passed away because that was the decision he made, and he's being trumpeted as some sort of great leader.
Yeah.
It's foul, it's disgusting. And once again, reason number 7,632 as to why the mainstream media needs to be destroyed.
Well, and let's not forget as well that they scrambled to get the Javits Center converted into additional hospital space. They had the Mercy that was there, or the Hope?
Right.
The boat.
The boat.
That's out there basically empty. I think they set up a field hospital in Central Park. So there was places to put these people instead of sending them back into nursing homes, and they chose not to do it. So
I don't know how that cat sleeps at night, let alone gets on television. Throwing his shoulder out, patting himself on the back.
I know. It's gross. But I'm trying to find back to your discussion about the doctor who neither of us can remember his name that was on Rogan in the beginning of all this, and saying this is like trying to fight the wind. Over the past couple days, thanks to ground news and following all these, stories from all over the world, I don't know how much of it's making it into the American press, but Europe's having these huge spikes all over the place. Spain's back in serious trouble, if you believe them, like freak out level. So is France. Germany's having problems. And now New Zealand has gotten into the race to see who can have the most draconian, crazy bullshit going on, them versus Australia. Because New Zealand had an outbreak. I think it was a family where several family members got it, and they have no idea what the origination point is. How is that even possible? So they locked down the entire city. And the country's locked down, period. Like, you can't get to New Zealand unless you are a citizen. And then when you get there, they throw you in a quarantine hotel for 14 days. So I think I read the story about one of the women that had escaped from the quarantine hotel because she had serious mental disorders and freaked the hell out, and so she escaped. Oh, yeah. And they were going to fine her. And then the judge took pity on her and was like, this woman is mentally ill, and you're trying to keep her locked up in a strange place.
Yeah, you got her in a Hilton FEMA camp.
Right. And so they've had the most serious lockdown that I can think of, as far as I've seen. And now they have a new outbreak, and now the whole place is back to everything must shut down. We have no idea where this came from. We can't figure it out. Holy shit. But my favorite story was they busted this guy, and I can't remember if he worked for the government or not, or how he was involved, but he was working in one of these quarantine hotels. And now originally the deal was, say you and I had somehow gotten passage to New Zealand and we're stuck in this place for 14 days. The rule was no alcohol for the Hilton FEMA inmates. So this caused some displeasure. And so what do people do when you come from a socialized medicine place? You say, wait a minute, I have a problem that requires that I have alcohol. See, I'm an alcoholic. And if you just cut me off cold, you're going to have a problem. So then they decided, okay, we will allow wine and beer. But that's not good enough for some.
No.
So this guard or whoever the heck he is starts doing booze runs.
Of course.
For the inmates. And you know what? He was price gouging them.
Oh, I'm shocked.
I was cracking up reading this. Like, he was making money off of the whole deal. It's like, yeah, you think? Just let the people have their booze. What damage does this do?
It's bad enough you're locking them up.
Right. What are they supposed to do for 14 days? Watch the Democrat National Convention?
Well, that'll drive you to drink even more.
They'll just all jump out windows and then problem solved.
Is it possible to make prison wine in a Hilton?
I don't think you have enough time to ferment. And who knows if they took out the mouthwash or anything that you could.
Oh, the Kitty Dukakis cocktail?
Kids, Google that.
I'm sorry. One of these days, I've got to update my references.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that's going to be really funny. And I want to remind everyone, I don't think because of the setup that there's going to be much of a real convention bounce. There's usually a convention bounce. Usually candidates get a nice bounce out of their convention. Just so you all know, Michael Dukakis, since we just brought him up, I looked it up the other day. He got a 15-point bounce out of the Democratic convention in 88, and he was up 18 points over George W. Bush in 1988 from the convention. So the narrative will be, if Biden gets any bounce, it's over. I mean, it's an insurmountable lead. Be prepared for it. It's going to happen. But just remember, out of the Democratic convention in 88, Dukakis had an 18-point lead, a 15-point bounce on a Harris poll, and he got his clock cleaned. Yep. So you just have to be wary of the narrative. I mean, it's going to be so fun watching the instant analysis next week of the Republican convention that was written before the convention even started. Mm-hmm. How divisive. Oh, he's dividing the country. The Republicans are just dividing the country, and the only thing they're offering us is fear. Oh, they're trying to sell fear to the American voter, as if the entire Democratic platform isn't a platform of fear.
Well, and as they sit there with the death toll from the virus next to them, mm-hmm. They talk about castigating Trump for selling fear.
Right.
It's a joke. But I mean, the trolling has already begun. Did you see where Trump is speaking tomorrow night to counter-program Joe Biden's big speech? What would be the trolliest of all trolley places to be?
Is he going to be in Pennsylvania? Mm-hmm. Is he going to be in Scranton?
He's going to be in Scranton, Pennsylvania. The birthplace of Joe Biden. Now, if he rolls in on an Amtrak train, if he shows up, here we go. Here's the trolliest of trolls, because he's really got to outdo when the debates come around. He's got to one-up himself for bringing in all of Clinton's accusers and putting them in the family box or wherever the hell he stashed them.
I think that one of the trolley moves too is you since they're having all these pre-produced segments, you have just a round table of the walk away movement.
Yeah, I don't think it's trolly enough.
I think that's an appetizer.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know how. I've heard of many people who consider themselves Democrats who have seen what has happened in these cities. Like, I can't do this. I can't vote for a party that has turned a blind eye to this stuff and won't condemn it. This is left-wing violence, and you're not seeing any prominent Democrats coming out and saying, not in my country. No, this has to stop.
Well, it's easy for them to do that because the media is not covering this.
But enough of it's getting out. I mean, people.
Yeah, if you're looking for it or if it's shown to you, then you see that, oh, Portland's still having problems. They declared a riot there again last night, whatever, we are 80 something days into this.
But I'm not even talking about the riot in Portland and Seattle and
Right.
Minneapolis, Indianapolis. You could go down every major city. They're having these problems and they aren't going away. Austin, you expect it from Austin, but I'm going to Austin in a few weeks, so I'm paying attention to what's going on in Austin. It's every night. And I've had people who I'm going to hang out with. They're saying, well, we're not staying in downtown anymore. And the whole like really cool district, I guess there's a really party strip of Austin. It's all boarded up. And of course the bars aren't open anyway, but still it's like people notice these things. The places where they used to go to, all of a sudden they're closed and they're boarded up and they're hearing that they aren't coming back. And you just have Democratic leadership go, And then you have many people who are leaders in the base of the party going, well, listen, it's okay to destroy that property. They have insurance.
Yeah. But to your point about doing roundtables, I agree that the roundtable, the walkaway would be something powerful. But what about a roundtable of all people from different cities that had their small business destroyed?
Yep.
By first, whatever Democrat governor they live under and whatever other down the line Democrats that enforce different rules in the cities, like New York is a prime example with de Blasio's madness, and then got the second punch of having their place looted or destroyed.
Yeah.
And talk about their life that was lost.
But unfortunately, it will be difficult to get these people to agree to go along with this unless they are closing up shop and they're retiring, because they're going to be fearful if they do try to open up a business again, they will be targeted by the left as someone who does not have a right to have a business anymore because they're Nazis, Tracy. I mean, that's what it's all about.
At this point, I have to wonder if these people can even fathom being able to open back up again. So I was watching, I know we've talked about Michael Tracy, who's an independent journalist of the lefty persuasion. So he's a big Bernie guy, and then Tulsi. But he took it upon himself to hop in his car maybe 5-6 weeks ago and just drive out to these cities to report from on the ground. And I've watched a recent conversation he had with another journalist named Nancy Rommelman, and she primarily writes for Reason magazine. And she had lived in Portland before and got social justice warriored out of there because of some of the pieces that she wrote, and they just kept attacking her husband's business. So she's like, I'm out. But she's gone back subsequently to report on the happenings. So the two of them were kind of comparing notes in this discussion. And Michael Tracy brought up the fact that when he was in Minneapolis, which I think he was there for 2 weeks, talking to people whose businesses have been destroyed and trying to get a handle on what rebuilding looks like, if it's even possible. And he said the thing he kept hearing over and over again was that there's a huge backlog wait to get windows and like plywood. I mean, seriously, you wouldn't think about that.
Sure.
But you got to imagine. And as soon as he said it, I was like, oh, of course. Think about how many plate glass windows have been destroyed across this country. And then you have those businesses shut down, depending on what state they were in and whether they made the essential list or not. So these people can't even get their arms wrapped around when they could potentially get to rebuilding.
Well, if you own a home, forget about a business. If you own a home and you get new windows for your home, it could be a 4 or 5 week wait just for windows for your home, let alone some of these. These windows are also obviously custom made. The sizes are odd shaped. They have to be custom made. And yeah, I would assume that the wait would be long. But we talked about a business. What was it? The company in Minneapolis. I think they made medical mannequins.
Yes.
And they said that they weren't going to reopen in Minneapolis. It would be a powerful statement to have whoever owns that company get in front of a microphone and camera and say, this is what happened to me. This rioting was going on. My business was on fire, and I saw a fire engine and fire crew sitting 2 blocks away not doing anything. And I'm not blaming the fire department for this. Mm-hmm. It wasn't safe. it wasn't safe for them to come in because they didn't know if people were going to shoot at them, or now the latest thing now, apparently we've seen it in Portland when federal law enforcement got there, was shooting lasers in people's eyes, trying to blind them. All I'm trying to do is run a business and employ people in Minneapolis, and I'm getting absolutely no support from the Democratic mayor, the Democratic governor of Minnesota. And I'm concerned that this apparently is the new normal for the Democratic Party, that they condone this violence. And I think that you're right. That's a powerful message. If you have business owners say, my business was destroyed, and it doesn't seem like Democrats care.
Yeah, that's what it is, because they always try to claim that moral high ground of caring about people. And that's been their whole thing through the whole virus. If it saves just one life.
Yeah. Okay. But business owners, as we know from the virus too, they get the least amount of sympathy from the American public and from politicians, because they're rich, they're the 1%. They're probably taking advantage of their employees, and that's how they got rich. They got rich off the backs of their employees, and so we'll just demonize them. Well, okay. They're just going to move. You're seeing it in California. Joe freaking Rogan's moving out of California.
Yep. And he's not the only one.
No.
There's a conga line behind him. And you would too. And in New York City is the same thing.
It's got to be so tough, because there's part of me that would be like, nobody is going to make me move. Nobody. I'm not going to take it. I'm going to stand and fight. Well, if you feel like it's not just your fellow citizens that's stacking the deck against you, when you have the mayor, the governor, state and local government, they won't lift a finger to help protect your property. You're on your own. And then if you do try to protect your property, like there are rumors that I don't know if this is true, that the St. Louis couple will be speaking at the Republican National Convention.
That's some trolley shit.
Yeah. If you do stand up like you're going to defend your property, you're vilified in the media. So, right. I at that point, I guess you got to say, well, the hell with it. They can have this. They're turning the whole state into a shithole. They can't even provide electricity.
Yeah.
In California to all their residents because of the stupid overregulation and the commitment to clean energy. That should be another example. See what they did with the energy sector in California. That's what they want to do to police around the country.
Mm-hmm. They're destroying the gig economy in that state. They want to increase the top tax bracket. And I want to say that they have 9 tax brackets in the state of California. I can't remember if it's 9 or 13. But anyway, they have a progressive income tax in California, like we have at the national level. And I don't know about Indiana. Pennsylvania, we have a flat. Everybody pays the same.
How ridiculous is it that 9 different tax brackets in a state? That's insanity.
Let me make sure.
But you're right. Everything they touch, they destroy. It's all about destruction. We're going to destroy the gig economy. We've destroyed the energy sector. We're going to destroy law enforcement. And it'd be one thing. I'll sit back and listen. If you have something better, let's talk about it. But their first solution is, we need to destroy what we have, and we need to get rid of what we have right now. Get rid of it. Okay, what are we going to replace it with? Well, don't worry about that. We just need to get rid of what we have now because it's bad. Yeah, but what are you going to do to replace it? I don't care. Just get rid of it. Okay. I would love to live in your fantasy world, but we live in the real world here, and you can't just say, well, you know what? Everybody should run their homes on solar power and wind. We're going to start that in 3 years. That sounds good. Oh, it sounds wonderful. How are you going to do that? Well, don't worry about it. Oh, okay. Don't worry about it.
Throw a bunch of money at it, like that train.
Yeah. Yeah, that choo-choo train. What's the status on that really expensive high-speed? Keep talking about the future. Why are we going to the past, man? Trains? Nobody. they're trying to change people's behavior through legislation, and I was told you can't do that, but apparently you can if it's a lefty cause. I don't want to get on a train. I don't care how fast it goes. Christ, I'll drive, thank you.
Well, we can't have you doing that.
Yeah, right.
So California, I was wrong. They have 10 tax brackets.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It starts at 1%. So if you make anywhere, it says $0 to $8,808. You're paying 1%.
Can I say something else where they're completely out of touch? Is I guess they did a segment during the convention, I believe on Monday night, romanticizing Amtrak. Amtrak, a complete failure, loses money hand over fist like the post office. And, the blue check mark, smart set. They were just, I think that Amtrak segment is really going to hit home with people. Oh, yeah, for all the people in Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, all the people in the swing states who use Amtrak. People in the Midwest don't use Amtrak. It's a great service for people going back and forth from D.C. to New York City.
To do television spots.
Yeah.
But I get it. People that live in cities don't own cars. They don't get the concept.
Nobody gives a shit in rural Ohio about freaking Amtrak.
But that was how Joe stayed grounded. You and I subsidized his train riding.
Yeah, his choo-choo train. I think he could afford...
I don't know. He was one of the poorest members of Congress. We're always reminded, which just tells me that he's incredibly stupid. Honestly, everybody else has figured out how to turn that into serious coin.
Yeah, not him, though.
The rest of his family did. I mean, that's the interesting part.
Well, hey, cocaine ain't cheap.
No.
Not the good stuff.
I wouldn't think so. I'm just mesmerized by California's taxes that they're going to take 1% of you if you make less than $8,800 a year. The federal government doesn't even do that.
It just sickens me so much, the war on the gig economy in California between Uber and Lyft. Uber and Lyft was, the enemy for a long time and still is for the political left. They can't stand it. They can't stand the people who are who have these side gigs. They all have to be unionized. They all have to be employees. And it's so ridiculous. You and I have been a part of the gig economy. I've written for websites before. I know people who have retired and their gig now is writing for a website, getting $25, $30 a post, and they'll crank out 4 or 5 a day, over 5 days. That's a pretty sweet gig to be able to do that in the privacy of your own home to supplement your retirement income. And Democrats in California are like, no, piss on that. You need to be an employee of that website. And those websites will just cease to exist. Yeah.
They don't understand the secondary consequences of their actions.
It's the intentions.
Of course.
That's what it's all about. Not results, just the intentions. And they're good intentions. Ugh. I don't know how anyone, if you have an honest assessment of what's going on in California, I don't know how anyone except for the devoted leftists can look at California and say, oh, make that America. Oh, for crying out loud. Wouldn't it be fantastic if the entire country were run like California?
You assume that everybody's hip to what's going on out there.
That's the problem, is that if there were honest reporting and, if they reported on what's going on in California the way they go after the governor of Florida, I mean. Maybe,
but I really wonder how many people are watching the news and care about that stuff. If it was presented in popular culture, perhaps there might be some inroads made with people waking the hell up.
Gavin Newsom should not even run a TCBY.
Correct.
Let alone a state.
Well, he's the reason TCBYs don't exist anymore, isn't he?
Oh, good Lord. Well, we are an hour and 15 minutes in, Tracy. Anything else?
And I'm missing serious DNC coverage right now. It's making me antsy.
Well, then we should probably wrap this up. Remember, you can catch the Enough Already podcast if you're watching this on YouTube and BitChute. There's an audio version of this podcast, obviously, because it's a podcast. So you can find it on Apple Podcasts and really all of your favorite podcast platforms. And if you are listening to this podcast, you can catch the video version of this podcast on YouTube and BitChute. And of course, Tracy does a fantastic job on our website, enoughалready.media. She posts the audio, she posts the video with show notes. Usually we reference more stories than we did today, but I don't know what you're going to do with the show notes today other than post the moving musical number from the DNC for those who that may be the takeaway. There's not going to be from this convention, and I shouldn't say this because there's still 2 days, but so far the takeaway for me is the musical number, and oh my gosh, Michelle Obama's fantastic, glorious speech, one of the best political speeches really in modern times, and coming from such a difficult environment, sitting in front of a camera with nobody around her, to be able to pull that off, just oh my goodness, really, why can't she be first lady again? Why can't she be president? Why can't she? Can we have a new world order, one world government that Michelle Obama is completely in charge because she's the smartest woman in the world? And my God, no one else really. They should have just turned off the mics at that point. Forget the rest of the convention. She right there won the election for Joe Biden. Just that one fantastic, remarkable speech.
You pushing for a gig on CNN?
It's always been the dream. All right. She's Tracy. I'm Fingers. We will be back soon with an all new Enough Already.